New HR manager pisses off hardworking employees. Malicious compliance. Years ago I worked for an awesome company that understood workplace culture, and fun was a huge part in keeping employees happy and productive. In our office, people would often cycle to work and therefore needed to shower and get ready at work. That meant that sometimes they didn't get to their desk until after 9 a.m. However, nearly everyone worked back without being asked to deliver on deadlines. Management didn't care because they knew the work was being done and everyone always went over and above. Enter new HR manager. We had never really had one before, but were growing, so needed one.
Within her first few weeks, she sent out an email saying that everyone needed to be seated and ready
to go at 9 a.m. and that we needed to stop having social chats and getting ready at work. Or if we did, do it earlier. She never acknowledged the fact that everyone put in unpaid overtime. Cue malicious compliance. Everyone would start at 9 a.m. as per email and then leave at 5 p.m. Projects started running behind and clients started getting pissed off because their product was not being delivered on time. New HR manager was confused as to why work was not being delivered on time anymore. People were starting on time. She made sure of it. Needless to say, upper management removed the rule and she quit shortly after. We all went back to our normal ways, and would you know it, projects were back on track. Don't walk into a new company and try to change something that isn't broken. The people will revolt. Edit. This was my first post and I didn't think anyone would see it. I want to clarify that OT was never expected or forced upon us, but due to awesome management, cool projects and great perks, we didn't mind when we did do it. Edit. Love seeing different people's perspectives and thoughts on this. Coming to you all for advice when I make my next career move. Best department manager I ever had came in, and when asked what he was going to change, he replied, "I'm going to spend a month seeing how things run. Then we'll expand upon the good and fix the bad." I have been in the military 23 plus years now, and have grown accustomed to frequent changes in leadership. The good leaders always come in and observe for a time,
only changing things that are blatantly wrong,
against policy, or negatively impacting performance. After observation time, they will make adjustments where needed. The bad leaders come in like a drunk uncle, flipping tables and making unnecessary changes just to make the point that they are in charge, and everyone needs a wake-up call. These types of leaders only kill morale and performance in the end. I worked for a very small company that had an unlimited vacation and sick time policy. If you wanted or needed time for anything, you just told the boss and took it. The company had like 8 people and we all really loved our work and worked overtime more or less constantly and didn't take much time off. I don't think I took a sick day the entire time I worked there. I could work from home, so if I had a cold, I just sit at my desk at home and work.
So this really wasn't a problem.
I'm sure the boss would have made the policy more strict if there was a problem.
After 3 years with the company,
during which time I'd only taken a day or 2 off around Thanksgiving and Christmas, I took a 2-week vacation with my boss's approval, during which time I took my close friend of 30 years on a 4-day trip to Las Vegas. Spent a week with my aunt, who I hadn't seen for about 15 years, in San Francisco, and attended my best friend's funeral. That wasn't planned. He died of a heart attack while I was in SF. The HR guy was not pleased that I'd been away for so long. He immediately emailed everyone a policy that all time off had to be approved a month in advance by him, and specifying a rate of accruing time off so we'd have a limited number of days off per year. Everyone said, "Yeah, right," and ignored him. He discovered the hard way that he actually had no power over anyone. I worked for a big company that was run like a startup. There was a huge emphasis on our customers and supporting them. and doing what was needed to make sure those customers were successful. It was high pressure but paid really well, was filled with scary smart people, and was usually a fun place to work. We did what was needed with few barriers. And it wasn't unusual for a VP to get a call from a frontline worker trying to fix a problem. That all changed when they brought in an HR director from an old-style telecom company. She instituted rigid processes that could not be bypassed and things that could previously be
resolved with a single call required following the chain of command. That chain of command routinely refused to deal with problems, and things that could previously be fixed in a week simply never got fixed.
Within months, the entire company took on the characteristics of a stodgy old telecom. And although the pay remained the same, the pressure increased. The fun evaporated, and it became a difficult and frustrating place to work. I wish I could say the HR director was forced out. But that didn't happen. Instead, people left in droves, and the place is a shadow of what it once was. Emo. HR department must keep people motivated, with good health and happy. Unless you want high rotation or run a sweatshop. Amazing how treating workers as if they're actual human beings gets better results. Hope she's out there somewhere being condescended to by Karens on a daily basis now. I've seen very similar malicious compliance in response to attempts to crack the whip on start times. While there are situations where widespread tardiness can become a problem, there's not usually a compelling reason to nickel and dime most white-collar, knowledge worker type roles on start time if they're performing fine. There used to be a really good private golf course in the northern Twin Cities that ran really well. Busy with banquets, good usage of the club dining facilities by the members, etc. Then a new F&B director came aboard and ruined it. I mean, he ruined everything by not seeing what was running so well but changing everything to how he wanted. The long-term staff was let go and the members were not happy. He lied to people, treated the staff like crap,
and just made work miserable.
The GM was not innocent because he made a horrible hiring but would never admit to it, so he let it all be. F. You to Brent and Alan. Best description I've ever heard of these type of managers are seagull managers. They swoop in, do a lot of squawking, leave shit all over everything, and usually fly out just as quick. When I first became a manager, I saw the HR book as a guide on how to achieve results. If someone was breaking our attendance policy and had poor performance, the textbook comes out, followed by a discussion on what they can do to improve their attendance and therefore improve their performance. I managed this way for about 3 years until I got a new boss.
Now, the book was our guide to make sure no one claimed we were being unfair. Mind you,
in these 3 years I only ever had one person claim I was unfair, and it was someone who fell asleep first day on the job and was therefore fired. Not anyone I actually worked with, and developed a work relationship where it was clear the better the performance, the looser the oversight. I ended up having more complaints when I brought out the rule book for every single thing. In our store, 5 absences without sick time to cover and you get a write-up. I had one woman who exceeded expectations on attendance for years, but nevertheless had to write up when she had health issues complicate her attendance. However, the DM's mom, DM being my boss's bosses, worked for us. She missed 13 shifts without coverage and I was told not to write her up. This direction wasn't by the DM. It was my boss. When I eventually spoke up, he was shocked to learn she missed so much time. My boss even once said, "I think we should send DM's mom home. She looks so sick," when I, myself, had been told leaving sick any day I could physically be at work reflected I didn't take my job seriously. This once was a job I once loved with a staff that actually respected me. By the end of it, I was worn down, coached out of my own personality and compromising my own ethics and integrity for what I can only describe as a corporate monster. I used to work in a support department in the UK and would regularly leave hour or 4 after my shift when I was working on customer tickets and or calls. We had a rule that we answer the phone up until the last moments of our shifts. Trouble is that a call might be 2 minutes or 4 hours. You just never knew. One day I was 4 minutes late logging into the phone system as I was as early as I normally am, and my archaic PC took forever to boot. Well, I got written up and I signed a chit saying that I should be at my desk and ready to work at 0700. I suggested that my team leader and myself should review all the door swipes for the past 12 months and work out how much time I owe them, or they owe me. I offered to pay anything I owed as long as they pay me anything I was owed. Not much was said about those 4 minutes after that. What annoyed me was that I was at my desk on time, but the crappy workstation took a while to boot and log in. We asked for new equipment and was told that they are waiting for prices to go down and specs to
go up, which means nothing.
They essentially wanted me to come in early to avoid spending money on kit upgrades. Sorry to rant. I just hate the entitled attitude from managers who would rather spend my time every day rather than fixing issues. It's amazing how well a company can run when its employees are actually happy. Don't walk into a new company and try to change something that isn't broken. Unfortunately, that goes against the management mindset. When a new manager comes in their minds they can't just maintain the status quo because A, they get no visibility that way, and B, their bosses might start to wonder why they were hired. So, he immediately identifies what was wrong with the previous person's management style and points out how only he can solve it. This mindset becomes more pervasive the further up the management chain you get. Biggest mistake of new management is thinking you have to leave your mark right away. Based on how you tell it, this may not have been what you was doing, but being unable to see what was working is always going to be a problem. On the other side, if shit isn't getting done, something definitely needs to change. Sometimes it's not always the right thing, and that's where I feel a lot of stories of this stem from. I had an office supervisor that when a 3-day weekend was coming up, he would lean back in his chair and say that he wasn't feeling it. It was always around 11 o'clock and we still had at least 4 hours left in our work day. He would walk out for a few minutes and then walk back in his office and walk out with his bag. So this meant that if we were caught up on our projects or were at a point that they could be done by 10 o'clock on the following Tuesday, we would get an early start, but all we would have to do is give him a 30-minute head start, and 1 by 1, we could leave. We had 6 guys in our office and there was other 6 guys in an office down the hall. We would call one of them and just say that we are clear. So 30 minutes later, half our parking was empty. Best new manager, I had chatted with each staff member individually and found out what they enjoyed
and what irked them about work and the workplace.
He also asked what one thing he would like us to do to make the physical environment better. Within 3 months, we had a ramp for disabled and push-chair access, film on the windows to stop the searing heat from the sun, working air conditioning, and toilets that didn't make you retch. He also changed working practices as well. One thing we did was to job shadow someone else. We then understood each other's roles and responsibilities and made improvements. The guy was amazing. He got everyone on his side. He's still spoken about in revered terms. I guess I always thought of HR as the people who do hiring, pay you, take care of benefits, and when necessary firing. Why HR would be the people micromanaging the day-to-day makes zero sense to me.
That's the manager's job.
And that stuff should be dealt with in a team-by-team basis. Especially since some teams may upstate differently than others. Part of the issue is that she was HR, not anyone's supervisor. She should have had no business telling anyone when or where to be. In 2019, after many years working in manufacturing environments, I got a job as a drafter. In an office. I dress nice, work in the climate control, go home approximately as clean as I showed up. It's weird.
Anyway,
I'm running late one day. I'm supposed to be there at 8 a.m. Looks like I'm going to be 5 to 10 minutes late. Not calling in for this situation was an unforgivable sin in pretty much every previous job I had. So I called the boss critter.
Tell him what's going on.
He sounds asleep, and he says, "Okay.
We will discuss it when we are both at the office."
Well, new boss is a hard ass, I suppose. I showed up around 8:10. Boss man rolls in around 9. Comes and gets me. "Let's go to my office. Close the door behind you. Go." And he sits me down and explains to me that being a few minutes late, or even an hour late, doesn't matter at all. He just says he needs the work done, and that the office opens at 8 a.m. That doesn't mean I need to be there at 8 a.m. Almost 2 years later, I'm still not used to it, but I haven't woke my boss up to tell him I'll be late again. Sounds like management found a way to con all of you into working for free, and you maliciously
complied yourself right back into a bunch of unpaid labor.
If the projects aren't getting done in the allotted time, then you're understaffed.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.